Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. In this video, I'll show you how I made this scape right from the very start, from prepping the tank right to the very end. But first, let's make a rundown on the things I've used. I have here a 60 by 40 by 40 ultra clear glass that I got from APS All Pond Solution. And I'm using an Aqua 1 Inspire 60 cabinet. Filtration. I am using an OASE Filto Smart Thermo 200, which already has a built-in heater. I am also using stainless steel lily pipes for the meantime, but I have plans on upgrading to a glass lily pipe. CO2. Currently, I am only using a DIY version. I am using citric acid mixed with sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. I'll post a link up here. I don't know which side. It's me doing the DIY version. I'll be showing you on that video how I made my DIY CO2. Let's talk about the lights. Initially, I used Chihiros RGB 24/7, but I upgraded into something a whole lot better after 3 weeks. I'll be linking that video as well, and there you'll see what lights, what brand, and what type of lights I upgraded into. So make sure to watch that video as well. Substrate. I'm using Tropica soil powder and Dua tropical river sand, which I have right here. It's right here. I think it's a side brand from ADA. I didn't go with the typical ADA La Plata because I don't like the aesthetic of that sand on my scape. I prefer the Colorado sand, but I can't get my hands on it, so I decided to go with a Duo sand instead. Hardscapes. I used a single piece of Redmore wood. It's a single piece for simplicity's sake. As for the stones, I used a total of 10 kilograms of dragon stones. It's right here. Some of them I had to hammer down to smaller pieces just so I can use them for finer details in the end. Plant list, probably one of the most important part of the scape. What's the plant on the wood? It's a HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA, weeping moss, and since I have an excess of HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA, I tied them to the wood as well. Some of it are growing immersed right here. As for the background, I'm using Cryptocoryne crispatula var balancei or Cryptocoryne balancei. I'm also using Eleucharis vivipara and some HYDROCOTYLE tripartita. On its third week, I decided to add in some Cryptocoryne mioia and Cyprus helferi, but the Cyprus helferi didn't make it. Most of them, well, all of them melted. I'm not sure where I went wrong, but I haven't removed them yet, just in case they recover. Initially, I also used a Nymphea Tiger Lotus Red, but it melted after a few days. Initially, I'm planning it to be my center point plant, but since it's melting, I went away with the Cryptocoryne mioia. Right underneath the wood is a Microsorum Therapus trident or trident fern. I've also added in Microsorum minor. It's a very small version of the Java fern, about this big. As for the rhizomatous plants, I'm using Bucephalandra wavy green and Bucephalandra species red, here and there with a few spots wherein you can see Anubias nana petite. I've also attached some creeping moss right here and right here. Two of my creeping moss are still attached to their original mesh just to see how they will grow out, and hopefully they grow out well. Now that I've listed most of the things that I'm using or that I've used, let me show you the entire creation process right now. Hi guys, I'm back. Hopefully you guys liked it. Please subscribe and leave a thumbs up. It'll really motivate me to do a whole lot more videos in the future. And while you are at it, why not binge to some of my videos? There will be a whole lot more tips and guides on how I made this scape successful. So again, please subscribe. This is the Aquarist for fun. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. In this video, I'll tell you what probably is the best light for a 60cm tank. I previously used a Chihiros RGB 24/7, which is this one. It's a 55cm light. I'd say it's good enough to grow easy growing plants to medium requiring or medium category plants. But enough of the chit chat. What am I currently using? I'm currently using the Chihiros WRGB II, which is this one. This one. Yes, some of you would have already guessed by the thumbnail itself. Yep, I bought this light using my own money so I can give you an unbiased so I can give you a review without bias. What are my initial impressions so far? So far, everything's been great, but there's been a few minor adjustments that I had to do. So, let's start with the pros. Colors. They are vibrant and really attractive in real life. It really emphasizes the reds and the blues from what I can see, which really help to show my healthy neon tetras and my gouramis colors as well. I'd say red plants will really pop up under this light, like some Rotales, HYDROCOTYLE PINNATIFIDA, especially the UK variant, the Uttara Canada. Sadly, I couldn't get my hands on one because the only variant I can get my hands on to is the regular HYDROCOTYLE PINNATIFIDA, which I have right here. But still, I am loving it. It shows a pretty vibrant brown to red color. Next up, control. This light has a built-in Bluetooth control with a dedicated app you can download on the App Store or on the Google Play Store. It's called My Chihiros, and under this app you can control minute details like ramp up time, when will it light up, and how much reds and blues and greens you want. Same thing goes with light intensity. If you want to know more about the app, I'll be uploading a separate video on it in the future. So I'd suggest you subscribe and keep on watching. Another benefit of this light is accessories. Yes, you heard it right. Accessories. This light has third-party accessories available on the market. You can either change the metal stand that it came with to an acrylic stand that is transparent and may fit your aesthetic much more. I can give you an example like this one. Or you can use this light like a pendant light. You know, the ones hanging on the light stand. All you need to do is buy the separate third-party accessory, which is the cord and the stand itself. You can buy them on Amazon or on AliExpress. Let's now talk about the cons. First up is its brand. Well, I guess its brand is a con. It being a Chinese brand gives the people doubts regarding its durability and legitimacy. Scapers are kind of in doubt or unsure whether this light will be able to deliver as promised. Another con is light intensity. I consider this a con because my transition from a low to medium light to something like this, which is a highlight, was pretty shocking, I'd say. When I was using my old light, which is the Chihiros RGB, I never had any algae issues before. But after using this light, even though I'm only using it at 70 to 80% brightness, algae started showing up. Yes, I'm already dosing fertilizers, I'm already providing plants CO2 then. So, something went off balance. It's not too big of a problem. As you can see, I haven't cleaned this tank yet, but if you're gonna nitpick, you'll start seeing some green algae, green dust algae along the walls of the glass. So yeah, those are my pros and cons on using WRGB Chihiros 2. It is definitely more expensive than my previous light, which is the Chihiros RGB 24/7, but it is also a tad much cheaper compared to the big brands like Kessels, ADAs, Fluvels, So, will I recommend buying this light? Definitely. Because of the price and quality ratio, it's pretty much the perfect balance. So what's the final verdict? Yes, I'd say I definitely recommend you guys buying this light. But for beginners, I'm a little hesitant to recommend this light to you guys simply because without proper knowledge on fertilizers and CO2, you might just end up with a huge algae problems. You might just end up giving up on the hobby because of the algae problems. So I'd really not recommend this light for beginners. For intermediate and advanced scapers, yes, definitely get this light. For those beginners out there, I can definitely help you expand your knowledge a whole lot more because I was a beginner too at some point. So what I'll suggest you to do is subscribe and leave this video a thumbs up and keep an eye out in the future because I'll be releasing a whole lot more tips and guides on how to make your scape successful. That's the Aquarist for fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. I'll be talking about what is probably the most debated topic in the aquascaping hobby today. It's DIY CO2 versus pressurized CO2. Okay, so I'll be talking about their pros and cons, and in the end of the video, I'll be talking about the costs. For beginners out there, why am I even talking about CO2? Well, in a planted aquarium like this one, CO2 is one of the three most important elements. The other two are lights and fertilizers. CO2 is basically required by plants for their respiration and growth. So, judging by the side-by-side video, you can clearly see that the pressurized CO2 will be able to give off a much better output compared to the DIY CO2. In addition, by using the pressurized CO2, I was able to maintain a 30 psi pressure. So I was able to use the bazooka diffuser that I got from CO2 Art. For the DIY CO2, I was able to use it once, but then it stopped working consistently, so I had to go back to the ordinary glass diffusers. One more thing to add is because the pressurized CO2 has a much better output, you can reach the desired CO2 levels in your tank within an hour or two. For the DIY CO2, you might need to add 2 to 3 more hours before the lighting period because its output is so weak that you might not be able to maintain and reach the desired CO2 levels. Let's get right to it. I'm gonna start with the pressurized CO2. Okay, so I've made a spreadsheet just so you can see the pros and cons side by side. Pressurized CO2, what are its advantages and disadvantages? Let's start with the advantages. Well, with pressurized CO2, there will be faster plant growth. There will be a stable CO2 production in the tank. It's easily controllable. It's customizable for any setup, any size of tank. And basically, if you're using a high-tech setup, it's essential to use a pressurized CO2. It can be toxic when you overdose. It's expensive for the initial setup. Refills can be expensive. Pressurized CO2 can be very daunting or very intimidating, especially for beginners. Now let's head over to the DIY CO2. Advantages. It's very inexpensive to set up. It's very inexpensive to run. And it can be difficult to overdose using DIY CO2. Disadvantages. It can be very uncontrollable. With it being uncontrollable comes another problem, probably the biggest problem. It's very inconsistent. DIY CO2 is not suitable for larger aquariums, basically larger than mine, larger than a 90 or 100 liter tank. Another problem that comes with its inconsistency is fluctuating levels. With fluctuating levels, you'll have algae problems. And you have to do regular mixture changes every now and then. Okay, so now that we've talked about the pros and the cons, let's head right over to what is probably the most, if not the most important topic about this discussion, the cost. Don't you just love spreadsheets? Okay, so I've made a spreadsheet. There you'll see the DIY CO2 versus the pressurized CO2. Initial setup cost in British pounds can be as low as £66. It's what I've spent for my pressurized CO2 setup. And in Philippine peso, it can be somewhere in the range of 4,300 peso. I had to do some research on how much it will cost here and in the Philippines. CO2 regulator, it's a cheap one from eBay that I got. It's the same product that I see in the Philippines. It's Mufan or Wufan. For the DIY CO2 setup, initial cost can be as low as $0, technically, because it's DIY. But if you want to go fancy, like me, it cost me 64 to 65 pounds. The bulk of that money went to this setup. It has a gauge, it has a bubble counter, and to the solenoid valve. If you're gonna go to the Philippines, it's gonna cost you 1,200 peso. It's a whole lot cheaper, probably why most scapers out there prefer or start out with the DIY CO2. But if you're here in the UK, I'd suggest just go with the pressurized CO2. Okay, CO2 diffuser and check valve is essential, so I've added it in. Next up, how long will one setup run for 2 bubbles per second for 8 hours? Okay, since this is my first pressurized CO2 setup, I have no idea how long a 2 kilogram CO2 tank will last. I did some research and it says it can reach as long as approximately 7 to 8 months. Now, I saw that approximation in the UCAPS or UKAPS website and on Philippine Facebook groups. Going to the DIY CO2, it can last at best 4 to 6 weeks. On my DIY CO2, I can barely make it to 5 weeks. And on the succeeding refills, it only lasts me a week. Like I said earlier, it's very inconsistent. Now, running costs. How much will it cost me for an entire year? For the 2 kilogram pressurized CO2, since one tank can last up to 7 to 8 months, one refill here in the UK is averaging around 15 pounds. It can be cheaper at some areas. It can be more expensive, especially in the central London area. And in the Philippine markets, I asked friends about it. I looked through Facebook groups. And according to them, it can cost you around 150 peso per refill and can reach up to 250. For the DIY CO2, I used to buy the refills, the citric acid and baking soda from Amazon. It's gonna cost me 60 to 90 pounds a year. Now, after all that, what is my personal recommendation? It's cheaper in the long run, less hassle, you'll get consistent plant growth under the right circumstances. So, the CO2 setup won this loud and clear. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe and leave a thumbs up. There will be a whole lot more videos like this in the future, so please subscribe, don't miss out. A special shout out to my cousins and family in the USA, to Ate Doris, Kuya Dennis, Auntie Lumen, Ate Claudette, and Kuya Keith. And to all my nieces and nephews, Enzo, Basti, Joaquin, and Danny, thank you all for the support. That's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. In this video, I'll be talking about neon tetras and how to keep them happy. Neon tetras have always been a mainstay in the aquascaping hobby as well as the fish keeping hobby. That's primarily because of their availability in most fish stores or pet shops, not to mention their gorgeous colors. Neon tetras are known for their neon blue colors as well as their bright red colors. The neon blue stripes extends from their eyes up to the tip of their tail, and then the red color comes from the middle section of their body, extends up to the tail section. And it's the main differentiating factor when comparing cardinal tetras, like this one, to neon tetras, like this one. See the difference? So, neon tetras, how big can we expect them to be? Personally, the biggest neon tetras that I've seen is about 1.5 inches. Neon tetras are also known to live up to 8 years. Of course, you have to set proper expectations. Sadly, it's gonna be a whole lot less in captivity compared to their lifespan in the wild. Now that we're done with their basic description, let's talk about water parameters. Amazingly, neon tetras can be pretty forgiving when it comes to parameters. Water temperature, I've seen them go as low as 20 degrees Celsius or this in Fahrenheit. And they can go as high as 27 degrees Celsius, which is also this one in Fahrenheit. Water pH, they can go as low as 6 and as high as 7. That's how high I would normally recommend them to be kept at, because in the wild, neon tetras can be found on slightly acidic waters. Water hardness, below 10 degrees of general hardness. So basically, as long as you don't go to the extremes, they'll be happy. And they'll pretty much thrive in any setting. Tank mates. I'm gonna talk about my tank as an example. I have a 90-liter tank at the moment. It's a community tank, and I keep them with a pair of pearl gouramis, 1 bamboo shrimp, 3 autosynclus catfish, a bunch of AMANO shrimps, and recently I've added 10 cherry shrimps. This tank is 2 months old and everything's going fine. It's a peaceful community tank. What else can I keep them with? Are you ready? Because I'm gonna give you a list. Basically, any other tetras, Black Widow tetras, Buenos Aires tetras, Ember tetras, pretty much any tetra. You can keep them in any live bearers, swordtails, mollies, platies, and guppies. I've seen them go with female bettas, sometimes even with male bettas, as long as the tank is large enough to house them all and have enough hiding space to hide from the male betta. Another lovely tank mate for neon tetras is everybody's favorite Corydoras. We can add in any other invertebrates pretty much, like shrimps and snails. Okay, so what are the fishes that I should avoid? Pretty much anything that can catch them and fit them in their mouths. Like giant gouramis, red-tailed catfishes, stingrays, African cichlids, South American cichlids. I could go on with the list, but I know you understand what I'm talking about. Another question for neon tetras is, how many should I get? I know I'm not the first one who's discussed about neon tetras, and I know you've searched the internet as well. The common recommendation is between 6 to 8. But honestly, if you're gonna ask me, if you really want to see them happy and being their usual selves, you should get them in groups of 10 to 15. Yes, you heard it right, 10 to 15. Because 6 to 8 is kind of sparse for a schooling fish. And for a schooling fish, the bigger the number, the more safer they will feel. Take my tank for example. It's a 90-liter tank, 60 by 40 by 40 centimeters. How many neon tetras I bought? I bought 25 of them. Minimum tank size. Taking their group numbers in mind, I'd say the minimum tank that they can go in is at least 10 gallons. And in a 10-gallon tank with groups of 10 to 15 neon tetras, the only tank mates that they should have are invertebrates like shrimps and snails. But once you go up to 15, 20 gallons and more, you can start adding in tank mates like gouramis, Corydoras, autosyncluses, etc. So what type of food should I feed them with? Micropellets will be your best friend. Personally, I'm feeding them with Hikari micropellets like this one. I just personally recommend this product because I've seen them go crazy for this one. You can feed them with these micropellets on the daily, but what I can personally suggest is give them a varied diet. So twice or thrice a week, you should feed them with something that's protein-based. Why should I give them protein-based foods? Well, because neon tetras are omnivores. You can feed them according to their sizes. You can start out with baby brine shrimps, daphnias, or cyclopses. Cyclops. And once they reach their adult size, you can start feeding them with bloodworms, tubifex worms, and even mature-sized brine shrimps. What are their feeding habits? They usually feed from the top of the water column up to the middle section. Plants. Your neon tetras will really benefit and thank you for giving them hiding spaces. You could put in tall plants like Crotalus, Vallisnerius, and tall hair grasses like mine, Eleucharis vivipara or Eleucharis montevidensis. Floating plants are a great welcome, but you do have to be mindful and don't let those floating plants overtake the entire water surface. Those floating plants can actually impede the gas exchange that's happening at the surface level. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you find this video helpful. I'm gonna have to beg them. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on any future upcoming videos. Because on this YouTube channel, I'll be talking about aquascaping, fish keeping, and any other general tips and guides on becoming a successful aquarist. So that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. In this video, I'll be talking about one of the most versatile, easy growing plants. You can plant it on soil, you can make it a carpet, you can tie it on hardscapes, you can grow it immersed, and you can just even let it float. It's the HYDROCOTYLE tripartita. So, let's start this video with the description of how it looks. It has a bright green color with a vine-like growth. And its leaves, they kind of resemble a 3-leaf clover. It can grow 5 to 10 centimeters tall or even taller. Or you can physically press on it to have a more compact growth. And for the beginners out there, that technique is called physical retardation. I'm gonna show you a quick clip on how I physically retard... What? I'm gonna show you a quick clip on how I physically control the growth of my HYDROCOTYLE tripartita in order to have a more compact growth. Okay, so now let's talk about growth rate. HYDROCOTYLE tripartita is a very fast grower, especially when under high light, when given CO2 and fertilizers. But does it really need all those? Not really. It will still grow fast, just not as fast. With its fast growth rate, it can be used to combat algae growth. What? Algae growth? Yes, algae growth. But when I say combat algae growth, what I really mean is to prevent algae growth and not to cure it. HYDROCOTYLE tripartita grows so fast that it can easily outcompete the algae. And it's my opinion that in every aquascape, you need to have at least one fast-growing plant. HYDROCOTYLE tripartita sends out runners and new buds every day. So, as an aquascaper, you'll see yourself doing a lot more trimming jobs than usual. And speaking of trimmings, it's a great segue for my next topic, propagation. HYDROCOTYLE tripartita is a very easy plant to propagate. All you need is a stem with a section portion. Let me show you. Like this one. There you go. You can either plant this or leave it in a crevice somewhere and it'll grow. Next topic, aquarium placement. Okay, so I now have decided to get myself a handful of HYDROCOTYLE tripartita. Where should I place it? When I say it's versatile, it's versatile. You can have it in the foreground, you can have it in the midground, and when you're creative enough, you can even use it on the background. With its fast growing capabilities, it can easily carpet the foreground of your tank. Here is a picture from the internet that I saw. He used HYDROCOTYLE tripartita as a foreground, as a foreground carpeting plant. For the mid-ground section, you can use it the way like I did. Here you can see how I placed my HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA. My desired effect would be like this. It's vine-like growth peeping through wood and the gaps. You can also use this plant as a background plant, although it will not be your typical background plant. Okay, so with its vine-like feature, if you're gonna let it grow vertically and let it climb your background plants, the HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA will give off a very untamed look with a very refreshing light green accent. Next topic is planting. This plant is a very versatile plant. You can either go to the default route, which is planting it on your soil. What am I doing? Here are some beautiful examples that I saw from the internet. You can also tie it on hardscapes like wood, rocks. Yeah, it's just wood and rock. And if you can find the perfect crevice, the perfect crack, you can squeeze it right in, like this one. You can also have it grow immersed, like what I did with mine, like this one. And if you're creative enough, you can just leave it there and let it float, like this one. It just shows how adaptable the plant is. I've talked about the HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA, how it can help your tank, how fast growing it is, how versatile it is. You can either grow it on your soil, grow it immersed, tie it on hardscapes. You can even just let it float. You can place it in the foreground, you can place it in the midground, you can use it in the background. If I were you, I'm gonna get myself a HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA now. So, have you considered adding this plant to your aquarium? Please, I want to know your opinion. Please comment down below if you're planning to get one or if you have a completely different favorite plant. Tell me what your favorite plant is and why. If you find this video interesting, please subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. Because if you subscribe in this channel, I'll be covering topics about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. Today's video, I'll be talking about my personal favorite plant. It's the HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA. I'll be talking multiple points about this plant. If you have any specific questions, just look through the description box. I've laid out a time code for it. So if you have any specific question in mind, just skip through and watch. Okay, like every other plant species spotlight, let's talk about its appearance. HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA is a very well-known plant for its serrated like leaves. The leaves can differ from dark green to a brownish color, and some species even have a pinkish to reddish color. This plant originated in India and has been in the hobby for more than a decade. Plant requirements. HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA is considered a medium category plant. A medium category plant requires a decent light and decent CO2 as well as decent fertilizers. And since I've talked about the plant's requirements, I'm going to start out with the biggest obstacle that you'll encounter when handling this plant. HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA melting. Okay, so this is going to be from my personal account because I've had problems with my HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA from the very beginning. Okay, what I did with it was I glued it to my Redmore wood, and after a week or so, it started melting. Stems started melting, some leaves started degrading, some leaves just fall off. So, how did I solve that problem? This was of big help. What I did was I gently brushed through the plant, and if the leaf falls off, I'm just gonna remove it. This will help the plant focus its resources and help save what's savable. Fertilization, initially I used Easy Life Profito, but turns out it doesn't have two of the three macros that every plant should have, which is nitrogen and phosphorus. After a few weeks, I was able to cycle this tank and I've added my fishes. With fish food and fish poop, it was able to supplement the plant's requirements for nitrogen and phosphorus. So my fishes somehow saved the plant as well. And on its third week, that's when I upgraded my light. If you want to know more about my lights, I'm gonna be linking that video as well up here on the cards or in the description below. Initially, I didn't have any CO2 setup for this tank, but when I saw the HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA melting, I started using the IY CO2. And after a month or so, I upgraded to a pressurized CO2. And the last tip I can give for your HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA melting is patience. You just have to be patient with this plant and it's gonna pay off. So let's summarize the things I did. I removed the dead leaves, I gave it proper nutrition, I upgraded my lights, and added CO2, and lastly, patience. Okay, so hopefully that will help with your HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA melting. Okay, so how do you plant HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA? Just like what I said with the HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA video that I did right here, HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA is pretty much the same. You can plant it on soil and you can use it as an epiphyte. If it's planted on soil, the roots will have an easy access to the nutrients available. So if you plant it on soil, it's gonna grow vertically. But if you're gonna plant it as an epiphyte, root structures will start to come out and it's gonna feed on the water column, just like mine. If you do plant your HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA as an epiphyte, you're gonna need to have liquid fertilizers, because liquid fertilizers will be much readily available in the water column wherein your plant roots are. Another topic for this plant is propagation. Like I've said earlier, HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA sends out runners. So on its own, when given decent light, CO2 and nutrients, it can spread. But if you want to propagate it manually, you can easily trim the stem, and with that trimming, you can just plant it somewhere or attach it to any hardscape. My personal recommendation is, if you're planning to propagate it and use it as an epiphyte, using the trimmings, you should initially plant it on soil, let it grow its roots, and then attach it to your hardscape and use it as an epiphyte. That way, it already has an established root structure that can feed off from the water column. HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA, can it be grown immersed? Yes, HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA can be grown immersed. So, I can easily recommend HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA if you're planning to have a shallow tank. Speaking of a shallow tank, I'm planning to make my own shallow tank using HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA with this one. So if you don't want to miss out, I suggest you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are always updated with the latest upload. So all in all, that's HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA for you. Hopefully I was able to help you with your HYGROPHILA PINNATIFIDA or to help you decide if you do want one. So that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for Fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. So, for the first video of the year, I'll be showing you how to mix your own aquatic plant fertilizer using the estimative index method. Hi there, my fellow Aquarists. So, before anything else, what is estimative index method? Or most commonly referred as the EI method. And for the beginners or amateurs out there, the estimative index is a straightforward method for providing nutrients to your planted tank. What's the idea behind the EI? So, the EI method of fertilizing your planted tank is simply providing your plants with unlimited amounts of nutrients. This means that there will be unlimited or non-limiting amount of nutrients in your aquarium, specifically your water column, and it will continually feed the plant. So, this method of fertilizing your tank provides a big surplus of nutrients available for the plant growth. With this will prevent your plants having deficiencies. So for the amateurs out there, I got your back. Amateurs are my favorite genre on specific websites. Okay, just wait. I'm already imagining some of you guys reacting like this. Oh, you're telling me to provide more nutrients than required. You're setting me up for a big algae problem. Okay, listen. Most algae problems usually start because of an unhealthy plant in your aquarium. Most algae-related issues are always due to plant deficiencies rather than the excess of nutrients, except for ammonium or NH4+. The plus meaning it's ionized, I think. Meaning most of our algae issues are always connected to our plant's health. I have read studies available on internet stating that ammonium or ammonia is probably the leading cause of algae in our tanks, nutrient-wise. Algae spores use ammonium or ammonia as their primary nutrient source. And as they grow out and mature, they will start using other nutrients that our plants use as well. Let me say that again. Algae spores use ammonium or ammonia as their primary nutrient source. And as they mature, they will use other nutrients for growth. So, controlling your ammonium or ammonia levels can directly affect or can directly correlate to controlling or maintaining your tank algae-free. That's why having a properly cycled tank is key. But enough about that. I'm here to show you how I will make my own fertilizer and use the EI method of dosing. First up is the micronutrients. So what does your micronutrients consist of? Those trace elements are iron, manganese, boron, copper, zinc, and molybdenum. Okay, so for my micro solution, I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon of chelated trace elements and then 500 ml of water. Yeah. Okay, when handling chemicals, always wash your hands. If you have gloves available, use it. 1 leveled teaspoon. So you can just pour it inside this twin neck bottle. And then just add 500 ml water. Editing magic. Make sure it's properly sealed. Give it a proper shake. There you go. And then just leave it for 24 hours. Just in case you're wondering, I got mine from Aquarium Plant Food UK. So just a word of caution, this mixture has copper. And for shrimp keepers out there, I've read that copper can be toxic to shrimps, so use it with caution. One more thing to note is that this contains boron. Boron, the chemical boron, is responsible for making your bucephalanges flower. That's your micro solution. Next is the big guys, macro. Okay, so what are the macros? Your macros are NPK. It's your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Shouldn't it be NPP because potassium starts with P? Okay, going back. Well, in chemistry, potassium is represented by the letter K. K means kalium. I think it's German for potassium. So for amateurs out there, whenever you see macros, it means nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Just like your micro solution, your macro solution will have 500 ml of water. Ideally, if you have access to RO water, I think it will be better to use RO water since RO water doesn't contain any other elements or metals. For your macro solution, we have potassium phosphate, magnesium sulfate, and potassium nitrate. Why is magnesium there? To be honest, I don't know. I've watched other videos and read other articles that consider magnesium to be part of the macro solution. For your potassium nitrate, we are gonna use 4 teaspoons. It's gonna be 6 teaspoons for your magnesium sulfate and 1 teaspoon for your potassium phosphate. Again, just add water and then give it a proper shake. Make sure it's properly dissolved and leave it for like 24 hours. There you go. Now you have a macro and a micro solution. Now, if you are going to use the same amount of ingredients that I used, we are going to follow the suggested dosing schedules and amount. So for your macros, you are going to dose your aquarium with your macro solution 3 times a week. So that's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're going to dose 10 ml per 50 liters of your aquarium water. And since I have a 90-liter tank, I'm gonna dose maybe around 18 ml per day. Now, for your micro solution, you're gonna dose your aquarium with the micro solution 3 times a week. Same thing with macro, but instead of dosing it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you're gonna dose it on alternating days. So that's gonna be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. How much should I dose? It's 10 ml for every 50 liters of aquarium water. I'll be dosing around 18 ml per day for 3 days a week. So if I'm gonna dose macros 3 times a week, and then I'm gonna dose micros 3 times a week, and we have 7 days in a week, what happens on that 7th day? On your 7th day, you're gonna do a 50% water change. This water change regimen is kinda like a reset button for your aquarium. Okay, I heard you. But I said with the estimative index, we are dosing our aquariums with a surplus of nutrients. So why do I have to do a weekly water change? Yes, having a surplus of nutrients for your plants will be beneficial, but we don't want to have a buildup of chemicals in our tank. That's why a 50% water change every week is crucial. Now that I've told you what EI is, how to mix your own fertilizers, we're gonna discuss the whys. Why am I going with the EI fertilization method? First of all, it's cheaper. It is cheaper to make your own aquarium fertilizers. So for each 500 ml bottle that I made, it roughly cost me only around £1 and 16 pence. £1 16 pence is equivalent to maybe 75 peso. So imagine that. How much will you save for a 500 ml bottle? It's gonna save you a lot, especially in terms of your running costs per year. And if you're used to buying a well-known branded liquid fertilizers, it can cost you roughly around 10 pounds or more for the same amount. So that's roughly around 600, 700 Philippine peso, which is a lot. 75 peso doing it on your own versus 600 to 700 peso on buying commercially available fertilizers. That's a lot. That's significant. I've bought 500 grams of potassium nitrate, 250 grams of potassium phosphate, 500 grams of magnesium sulfate, and 250 grams of chelated trace elements. The entire kit will give me 16 500 mLs. And for the macros, it's gonna last 45 freaking 500 ml bottles. That's a lot. There are a few key elements that you need to consider. First, you have to make sure that you have a proper lighting. Medium to high light is required. Make sure you have a consistent CO2 production. It is highly suggested that you have a pressurized setup, or if you're gonna go DIY, you can at least make sure that there is consistency with your CO2 levels. Speaking of CO2, you have to make sure that there is enough water flow in your tank. There is a study in the 1980s or 1860s, I couldn't really remember the exact year, but it says there on that study that plants can hinder your water flow by about 90%. So you have to make sure you have decent water flow inside your planted tank. But if you have a low-tech setup, can I still use the EI method for fertilizing my planted tank? EI method is highly suggested for medium to high-tech setups, but there are instances wherein you can still use it on your low-tech setup. Instead of dosing your aquarium 3 times with your macros and micros, you can adjust your doses to just once or twice a week. So, are test kits necessary for using the EI method? No, not really. But if you do have testing kits, the EI method have specific target ranges. For CO2 levels, that's between 25 to 35 ppm. 25 to 35 ppm, if you're using a drop checker, the color should be light green. So for your nitrate levels and potassium levels, it has to be between 10 to 30 ppm. For your phosphate range, it's 1 to 2 ppm. For your iron, it has to be 0.2 to 0.5 ppm. Okay, so if you want to know more about the EI method, I'll be posting more videos regarding the subject matter. So if you don't want to miss out, I suggest you to subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. In this channel, I'll be discussing about aquascaping, fish keeping, and general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for Fun. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. In today's video, I'll be talking about the worst nightmare for an aquascaper: algae. Specifically, I'll be talking about what is an algae, how to manage that algae, and what are the common myths that surround this algae problem. Okay, so let's start. What is an algae? That itself is a very complicated topic. Algae can be a unicellular organism or a multicellular organism. Diatoms, for example, is a unicellular organism. Green algae, for example, is an example of a multicellular organism. Is algae bad for your overall aquarium health? No.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Is it an eyesore? Yes, definitely. Algae has been around for a very, very long time. And there's a reason why algae has survived for such a long time. Algae is a very opportunistic organism.
Perfect.
Algae has evolved or developed to bloom or grow opportunistically. What does that mean? It means whenever you leave a gap or open a door for them, a sliver of weakness in your system, algae will start to grow. And the big reason why it is such a pain in the ass is that because it doesn't really need much in order to grow or bloom. Which leads me to the next topic. What causes algae? If you go to different online groups, they will keep on saying it is caused by a lot of things, which can be a very confusing thing for a beginner. They usually blame it on high lighting periods. Don't deny it. I know you've been into Facebook groups and they always blame lighting. They are not wrong in a way, but it is not the real cause of algae.
No, the fuck it's not. No, it's not. No.
The real cause of algae is the availability of ammonia or ammonium in your tank or planted aquarium, Next is inconsistent CO2 levels, and probably the #1 cause of algae blooms in our tank is having unhealthy plants in our tank. So that's ammonia or ammonium, inconsistent CO2 levels, and an unhealthy plant. Okay, like what I've said in my previous video right here, and like what I've said earlier, algae is a very simple and very opportunistic organism. It needs very little quantities of stuff to survive and grow. Algae spores live off on ammonium or ammonia, and then when they develop into an adult form or a mature form of algae, they will start eating up other nutrients as well. The adult form of the algae is what we see in our tanks. What we don't see are the algae spores. So algae spores can survive with ammonium or ammonia as their nutrient source, which is why we have algae blooms in the initial part of our aquarium keeping. Remember, when we set up our aquarium, what is the first thing we need to establish? A proper nitrogen cycle, right? Of course. In other words, a well-cycled tank. In that cycle, the first stage is controlling that ammonia. You need to build up a beneficial bacteria in your filter in order to convert that ammonia into something else. Now, with that in mind, what is the first group of algae or problem that we usually have in our newly established tank? It starts with a D.
What? Double trouble! Uh-oh. That was the original.
No, not that D. It's diatoms. Algae spores live off of ammonium. Diatoms, which is a very simple organism. That is why they are the first ones to grow and they are the first ones to take over that opportunity to grow. It's because you don't have a properly cycled tank. You have abundance of ammonia or ammonium in your tank, thus the diatom growth. And then after a while, diatoms go away. Why is that? Because your tank is slowly being cycled, ammonia is slowly being consumed by that beneficial bacteria and then converting it into nitrite and then nitrates. So diatoms are gone. It's a very rare case that we get diatoms after cycling our tank. What comes next? The mature forms or multicellular algae. I'll be skipping the reason number 2, which is CO2, and then I'll go straight ahead to my reason number 3, which is an unhealthy plant. A very stressed out plant is a prime trigger for an algae bloom. Yes, plants can get stressed, especially when they get transferred from one aquarium with a different water parameter into yours. And because of the sudden change, it has to adapt. During that adaptation phase, that plant will start to excrete what's this? That plant will start to excrete a lot of older waste protein and other DNA materials. And guess what? Ammonia is a byproduct of protein digestion.
The prophecy is true.
And what eats and feeds off these waste? Algae. That's why in an unhealthy plant, there will always be some sort of algae growing on its leaves. That is where CO2 comes in. Plants need CO2 in order to survive and grow. Plants are carbon-based organisms. In order to grow, they need carbon. Where do they get that carbon? They get that carbon in carbon dioxide. So it's either you don't have enough CO2 or you have fluctuating levels of CO2 in your tank. If your plant is healthy, they're not dying. If they're not dying, they're not dead. If they're not dead, they will not release ammonia into the water column, and without ammonia, you won't have any algae or big algae problems. Let's have a rundown on what causes algae. Ammonia, unhealthy plants, and fluctuating levels of CO2. Now let's get into the juicy bits. Algae treatment and cure. Now we are going to specifically talk about different types of algae and how to solve that problem. The first type of algae that we will talk about are diatoms. We usually encounter diatoms in a newly established tank. And like I've said earlier, this is due to a lack of sufficiently established media or filter to convert ammonia into nitrite or nitrates. Also, in a newly planted tank, your plants will have to adjust. They are stressed out, some of them will melt, and with that comes ammonia, and then comes diatoms. Green water algae is a free-floating algae that exists in your water column. This can be due to either overfeeding or you don't have enough plants or your plants are not healthy. You overfeed your fish and then that excess food will then decay. Anything that decays gives off the ammonia, thus the green water. How do you solve this? Do large water changes that will not hurt or put your fishes into trouble. You have to increase your filtration, and one of the best way and highly recommended is having UV sterilization. UV sterilizers are the best way in order to stave off or control that green water problem. Next is the filamentous hair algae. Filamentous hair algae is one of the most primal form of algae, and it is caused by, of course, ammonia. So in order to cure this or treat your slimy filamentous algae in your tank, you have to manually remove it by using brush, your fingers, a fork, whatever, or by removing it using natural causes like fish, snails, shrimps, and other algae eaters. And the next is having a proper filtration and enough water flow in your tank. And then just to be on the safe side, you can use CO2 and nutrients to help your plants grow and not die and produce ammonia. Green spot algae. Green spot algae is caused primarily by two things: lack of CO2 and insufficient phosphates. If you don't have enough phosphates, what do? You add phosphates. Adding phosphates to your tank to a healthy level of 3 to 5 ppm will be enough to control the green spot algae and having proper CO2. Now, the biggest problem with the green spot algae is that they can be kinda hard to remove, or it can take a very long time for them to go away. This will not happen within hours. This will not happen within days. This can happen in weeks. So you need to have patience as well. The next type of algae that we will talk about is probably one of the most notorious algae. It is the blackbeard algae and the staghorn algae. Now, they are notoriously persistent in the tank because even if you manually remove it, they will still grow. They will still come back and hunt your fucking aquarium. Why is that? If you only manually remove that blackbeard or staghorn algae, the root systems are still deeply embedded. Most people will suggest using hydrogen peroxide and Excel or liquid CO2 and then just blast that algae, and still that blackbeard algae will come back.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
It's because the root system isn't addressed. How do you address that root system? You increase your CO2 levels. This type of algae is easily fixed by increasing your CO2 levels. Not only do you have to increase your CO2, you have to have a very consistent source of CO2. DIY CO2 systems can be a problem because they are known to be inconsistent, so a pressurized system is highly suggested. Next is the green hair algae. So, unlike the blackbeard algae or staghorn algae wherein you can easily identify what caused the problem, green hair algae is a hodgepodge of a lot of problems. Green hair algae is the culmination of everything that's wrong in your tank. You can either have a dead fish, high ammonia levels, plants are suffering, not enough CO2, not enough nutrients, too much light, thus the green hair problem, the green hair algae problem. The best way to keep up with this green hair problem is by manually removing it. Try to remove as much as possible. Upgrade or clean your filters and increase your CO2 or nutrient levels. Also, don't skip on water changes. Always keep up with your water changing routine. Don't overdo it by changing the water every day or every 3 days.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
Usually once a week is the best. Now, eventually this algae will go away. Okay, looks like I've taken too much of your time. I'll be discussing the algae myths in the next video after this one. So, I hope everything that I've discussed will help you in maintaining or having a pristine aquascape at your home or your offices. And if you want to know more about fish keeping, aquascaping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist, I suggest you to subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. Again, that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for Fun. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. For today's video, I'll be showing you a walkthrough for the companion app that goes with your Chihiros WRGB II. First, open your App Store or Google Play Store and search for My Chihiros. At the moment, their logo is a dragon on a red background. Then, just click Install and open the app. When you open the app, this is what you should expect to see. On the top right corner, you'll see the color palette button. If you click it, you'll see the option to change the app's color theme. At the moment, we only have 4 color options. Right below that theme button is the Add Device button. This is where you should initially be when first setting up your device. After scanning and setting up the connection process, you can pick the device that you'd like to set up. You'll then be transferred to this page. By default, you are in auto mode. Click this menu button and here you can edit the device's name. You can also set up a password just in case you don't want anyone messing up with your settings. And you have a group option as well if you want to group your devices, for example, living room, bathroom, etc. On the lower part of the auto mode page, you'll see the quick set, save, load, and reset buttons. To start, just click the quick set button. You should be seeing a page similar to this one. Here you can set the sunrise or the time that your lights will turn on. I've set mine at 12 noon. Click next. Here you can set the number of your daylight hours. I've picked the aquascaping default of 8 hours. The next setting will be the ramp up time. This is particularly important for the livestock just so they don't get spooked when the lights turn on. The next page is where you can fine-tune your lights settings. Here you can set the intensity of your reds, greens, and blues. I will individually show you the 100% setting of each color. The response is instant in real life. If there is any delay in the video, it's because of the difficulty syncing my screen recording and the aquarium video. I'll be playing with the settings to showcase the Chihiros WRGB II's capabilities. Colors are extremely vivid, especially in person. Sometimes the colors are exaggerated. Some don't like it, but most love it. The sliders underneath the RGB are the light intensity and the color temperature. Color temperature ranges from 3000 up to 13,000 Kelvin. On the very bottom, you'll see the preset options highlighting different aspects of your tank. We have the reds, green, blues, fish, shrimp, and all, which is your RGB maxed out. I personally like the red and the blue setting. You can save that setting and load it up in case you want to adjust some settings but don't want to go through the entire setup process. The preview button does exactly what it says. It gives you a preview of your setup starting at 12 midnight as it goes through the day. From the auto mode, we can now move on to the manual mode. This is a stripped down version of the auto mode. It has the exact same setting layout except for the sunrise, ramp up, and daylight hour setting. You can still control the RGB, intensity, and color temperature. It also kept the presets like green, reds, and blues. Going back to the home page, we can see the personal center page. This is where we see our logged in details and our list of devices. The middle tab on the bottom is the market page for Chihiros. This is where you can see their full list of products ranging from lights to accessories or spare parts. There you go. That's the companion app for my Chihiros WRGB II. Please don't forget to subscribe, because in this channel I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. That's it for me. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. Are you having troubles deciding whether to get an AMANO shrimp or a red cherry shrimp? Hopefully this video will help you out. It's AMANO shrimp versus red cherry shrimp.
Fight!
So, on this video, like a proper versus video, we'll be comparing the two under multiple categories. Number 1, appearance.
Another one.
Number 2, breeding.
Another one.
Number 3, tank mates.
Another one.
Number 4, price and availability.
Another one.
Number 5, algae eating efficiency.
Another one.
Stop it. Get some help.
Appearance. AMANO shrimps are generally transparent with brown spots. But as they mature and when they are happy and healthy, their tops turn into brown, almost like a bamboo shrimp. Red cherry shrimps, on the other hand, are the eye catchers of the shrimp family.
Let's go! Fuck!
They are bright red and can easily stand out in your planted tank. Oh, by the way, you know what else is red? That subscribe button right there. So, click that subscribe button because I know that you guys are watching me and haven't subscribed yet. Trust me, I know. Also, AMANO shrimps are bigger in comparison to the red cherry shrimps. That size difference is a make it or break it decision factor when getting either a cherry shrimp or an AMANO shrimp. Breeding. Yes, AMANO shrimps can mate in your tank. Boy. Yeah, boy. But their eggs won't mature under your ordinary tank conditions. As far as I know, because I haven't done it myself, AMANO shrimps require brackish waters in order to complete their breeding cycle. Red cherry shrimps are the rabbits of the hobby because they can easily breed and multiply in your tank as long as basic conditions are met. What are those conditions? No predators, plenty of hiding spaces, and plenty of food. Tank mates. AMANO shrimps will take on this category easily because they are larger and aren't as colorful as compared to your red cherry shrimps. Most fish will just leave them alone and let them do their own business. Kinda like those grumpy honey badgers. Red cherry shrimps, tank mates. Red cherry shrimps can turn easily into expensive fish food if you don't do your research properly. They'll be bite-sized luxury protein bars, and that's what they are. Price and availability. AMANO shrimps are more complicated to breed compared to your red cherry shrimps, making their availability lacking at times. And what isn't always available will tend to affect its price. Red cherry shrimps, on the other hand, are much more readily available. That's because they're a bunch of horny little critters. From high grade to almost cull quality, red cherry shrimps are available everywhere. You can buy them from your local pet shops, local breeders, and from other hobbyists who are just willing to earn some cash. Algae eating efficiency. Okay, I want to start this category on the right foot. These shrimps will never be enough to take care of your algae problems alone. You can get them in conjunction to the proper steps of handling algae. But never, ever buy these beautiful creatures just because you up. If you want to know how to properly manage your algae, just watch this video. Okay, going back. AMANO shrimps 1, basically. AMANO shrimps can eat more varieties of algae and has bigger mouth parts to handle a more robust algae growth. Now, what the red Chihiros shrimps has on their side is their size. They are generally smaller compared to AMANO shrimps, so they can fit into tighter spaces, but that's about it. Because they're small, their mouth parts are small as well, making their algae preferences much slimmer compared to the AMANO shrimps. Red Chihiros shrimps tend to prefer softer forms of algae and just basic biofilm. So, who won this versus video?
There are basically two schools of thought.
Well, basically there are two schools of thought. The aesthetic versus the utilitarian. In the aesthetic point of view, red Chihiros shrimps won this contest. Imagine this. With red Chihiros shrimps, you basically have horny little Ferraris that can multiply and can be kept on a separate standalone tank. Red Chihiros shrimps are the very foundation of the shrimp keeping hobby. So that's basically an entirely different spectrum of the Aquarist hobby. So, red Chihiros shrimps, kudos to you. In the utilitarian point of view, it's gonna be the AMANO shrimps, clearly. They are big, they're always hungry, and with enough numbers, they can help you maintain your aquarium in pristine condition. Also, like what we've talked about during the breeding category, AMANO shrimps will never overtake your aquarium. I'm looking at you, ramshorn snails. I'm looking at you. And AMANO shrimps can go into any aquascape-centric aquariums without the fear of being eaten. Or to make your life simpler, you can just do your research and with proper execution, you can have them both in a single tank, just like mine. So, if you want to know more, remember to subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. In this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. Previously, I've talked about how to manage your algae problems, which is linked right here. For the part 2 of my Algae 101 series, I'll be talking about the top 3 myths that surrounds algae. Right before we start talking about the myths, please subscribe to my channel as I am now more than a third of our goal, which is 1,000 subscribers. Okay, so let's start with myth number 1. Excess nutrients can cause algae.
That's suspicious.
This myth is probably one of the longest standing algae myth. Back in the olden days, this myth is being passed around as a fact.
It's facts! It's facts! It's not facts. These sites is not facts. It's not facts.
But as we progress and develop our scientific processes, this fact is now a myth and it needs to be debunked. Excess nutrients will never cause algae on its own. Plus, have you guys ever heard of the EI method? I'll be linking that video in the description box below. But long story short, EI method is when we dose nutrients in excess in order to have a surplus of nutrients and promote unhindered growth for plants. Mr. Tom Barr popularized this new method of fertilization. And here is a picture of his tank. Yeah, I don't see any algae here. So, who is this Mr. Tom Barr?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Mr. Tom Barr is someone who's researched plant science in a significant amount. And he is also a manager of a large horticulture outfit in Europe. So that includes a bunch of sharp researchers and professors who are well published. Basically, it's just a hobbyist that seemed to have issues with the EI method and needs convincing. The only nutrient that is solely to blame here is ammonia or ammonium. And I've talked about it plenty of times from my previous video. Ammonia or ammonium, ammonia or ammonium, ammonium or ammonia, ammonium or ammonia.
Ammonia from ammonium. Ammonia or ammonium. Ammonia, 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 ammonia. And guess what? Ammonia, of course, ammonia.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer. This is so much cancer that I can feel the tumors growing on my back.
Okay, so just in case you missed it, algae spores use ammonia or ammonium as their primary nutrient source. And as they mature, that's when they will start using other nutrients as well. So there's basically one nutrient that promotes algae growth. That's ammonia or ammonium. So does excess nutrients cause algae?
No! No!
This is a perfect example. I've been overdosing this tank with nutrients and I haven't had any algae problems ever since. So myth number 1 is
Pure fiction.
debunked. Myth number 2, adding more algae eaters will solve your algae problems. Algae eaters like AMANO shrimp, red cherry shrimp, Autosynclus, Siamese algae eaters, they can help limit any minor algae bloom that occurs naturally even in a healthy aquarium. But the moment you think that these beautiful creatures will be the cure-all for all the fuck-ups you've done in the past 3 months?
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
You need some help. They are so small that they can barely make a dent in the algae problems of a tank, say, this size. Okay, I hear you. How about we put in bigger algae eaters? Bigger species like Plecostomus, for example. But Plecostomus or any other related species, they only eat algae at a young age. And as they mature, they'll even produce more waste to a similar sized fish. In order to solve these algae problems, you've got to solve what's causing this algae. And your lack of algae eaters isn't the cause of your algae problems. So, no, adding algae eaters will not solve your algae problems. Myth number 2 is debunked. Myth number 3, sunlight can cause algae.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
This is a myth and I can personally attest to this. This tank right here is exposed to a south-southwest, basically a south-facing window. And if you have a south-facing window, you basically have a ton of sunlight. And I don't have any algae problems. The only reason why this myth is being spread around is because when that light, sunlight, which is a very strong light, hits your aquarium and your aquarium isn't prepared, meaning you don't have enough CO2, you don't have enough nutrients, that's when your plants suffer. I'm gonna give you an analogy, okay? An example. Imagine me running on a marathon. You will give me adrenaline. I'll be pumped up. I'll be very energetic.
Hold it.
Imagine me running on a marathon with adrenaline injection, but I have a nose plug and I haven't eaten for 2 days. Even I doubt that I'll finish that marathon midway. The same thing happens when your tank receives such strong light and your tank isn't prepared for such a strong light. So no, technically sunlight does not cause algae, but rather it is due to your tank's lack of CO2 and nutrients to support such high light. Myth number 3 is debunked. Ooh, after watching this video, did I hurt your feelings? I hope that now you are a more knowledgeable aquarist. Don't forget to subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. In this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. It's been more than 3 months since my initial review of the Chihiros WRGB II. I'll be giving you my final review and verdict, and we'll see if I'll still be able to recommend this light for you in 2021. So please, watch till the end. Or you can just skip it like any other loser out there. Okay, so let's get right through it. Let's talk about topic number 1. What are my current settings for the Chihiros WRGB II? Okay, so from my previous scape, which is this one, reds are at 60%, green at 40%, and blue at 60%. So that's 60, 40, 60%. For my current scape, as you can see, I used the preset option, which is called BIOS.
Boring.
So basically, reds are at 81%, greens are at 65%, and blues are at 100%. Why did I go for that setting? Well, that's because I'm trying to grow a carpet plant, which is Eucharis acicularis mini, or the mini dwarf hairgrass. Also, my plant mass is more than 70% of the total surface area. That's why I needed more power, baby. Lighting period, as always, 8 hours with a 30-minute ramp up time. No, actually, I have 1 hour ramp up time for this scape. Another question is, can it support carpeting plants at the substrate level? Well, yes, definitely. Yes! Monte Carlo will definitely not cause any problems. Dwarf hairgrass, as you can see, I'm not having any problems as well. And if you fine-tune your settings, I'm sure Hemianthus cuba or a glossostigma won't cause any problems. Okay, pro tip. Just make sure that there's nothing obstructing that light source reaching the substrate level. In my current scape, as you can see, the Redmore wood right here is blocking the light around this area. That's why my dwarf hairgrass around this area is kind of sparse compared to this side. Does my light ever get hard? No. Hot. Does my light ever get hot? It's warm, but it's never hot. Not once did it ever feel like it's getting too hot. And yes, even on max settings. Do you want to know what's hot? Subscribing to my YouTube channel. So give that red hot subscribe button down there some love. And don't forget to smash that like button. Yeah, boy. Next, let's talk about upgrades. Do you remember from my initial impressions video, I mentioned something about having upgrades? Well, I've given my light some pizzazz. I got this clean acrylic stand for my lights and it's looking mighty fresh. Since we're talking about upgrades, I'd like to mention that there was this one time when I opened the app and it prompted me to upgrade the lights firmware. I'm not 100% sure what the firmware update is about, but hey, an update is an update. And since we've touched the topic about the app, I'm on a roll with the segues.
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing?
Let's talk about the app, which is called My Chihiros. My Chihiros app have had some feedbacks from some users about it being too convoluted or sometimes a bit buggy. My personal take on this is that at least the light has an app that can connect through Bluetooth. Chihiros, if you're listening to this, your app needs some work. Make it more user-friendly, I guess. I didn't have any problems with the app. I can get the results that I want, but for some users, it might be too complicated. Another important topic is, was it worth the price? Yes, definitely. Yes! With all the things you get and could get, its price to value ratio is definitely one of the best, if not the best. You get high intensity lights wherein you can grow almost any plant. I think around 95-98% of the species available in the aquascaping hobby. You also get fine-tuning options through the My Chihiros app, and they've given you options to upgrade your lights via the acrylic stand, the hanging light stand kit, and there are also shades available if the light's bothering you. Listen, the competition within this performance bracket don't offer all these options fully. ADA, a very great light, but doesn't give you the option to fine-tune the settings yourself. Twinstar, as far as I know, at the moment, they don't offer any Bluetooth or Wi-Fi controls out of the box. You have to buy a separate controller, which you can get with the Chihiros WRGB II out of the box. Fluval Lights has connectivity through their Fluval app. But to be honest, Fluval Lights cannot keep up with the likes of Chihiros, Twinstar, and ADA. ONF products, they're very good, but pushing your budgets to the limit is one thing. With ONF, it can basically leave an ordinary aquascaper bankrupt. Next topic is, were there any problems since I've bought the lights? Honestly, it has performed well and it has aged well as well. Well. Is the WRGB II by Chihiros still worth it in 2021? The Chihiros WRGB II is definitely one of the best investments I've made in this hobby, and I am still more than happy to recommend this light for every aquascaper out there. But do keep in mind that I've seen Chihiros slowly pushing out iterative versions of the WRGB II, which is called the WRGB II Slim. I don't have any ideas about its performance as of yet, but it's definitely one worth to keep an eye on. Also, there's an updated version in the Vivid line, which is the Chihiros Vivid Mini. Same thing, definitely worth keeping an eye on. So, there you go. For more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe, because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some more general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. I'm the Aquarist for fun. Bye.
OASE stands for experience, competence, and the highest quality standards. OASE BIOMASTER and BIOMASTER Thermo, where the most rigorous requirements are imposed on filter capacity.
I'm gonna get one.
Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. Filtration and circulation. We all know how important the topic is. In this unsponsored video, we'll be unboxing and talking about the BIOMASTER. Specifically, I have the BIOMASTER 350 right here. So, let's begin. Don't ask about the costume. My wife made me do this. And the first thing that greets us is another box. And it contains nothing. Oh. I can see it. It's coming. There you go. Oh, there's another box. That's it. I'm guessing this is where you get all the bits and bobs that it comes with. Oh. Some paperwork, warranty, and some stuff I know you wouldn't actually read.
Boring.
Let's put this aside for the meantime. So here is the BIOMASTER 350 itself. Let's first talk about the build quality. In the traditional OASE fashion, it comes with blue and gray color. Just the tip.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Just the tips.
All the blue parts, they are movable or something that you need to twist or push. Plastic quality seemed durable enough. By the way, thanks to OASE for always putting a handle in their external canister filters. It makes maintenance much more easier and safer, because that means you won't have to break your back whenever you're lifting a heavy external canister filter. And contrary to the popular opinion, I didn't go for the OASE BIOMASTER because of the pre-filter. I decided to get this BIOMASTER 350 because of the handle. Ooh, that's a thick handle. Don't you just love it when you hold something thick?
Bro, what did you just say?
I meant to say, don't you just love it when the handle is thick?
Nah, bro, that's still gay. No, you're gay. He's gay. I'm not gay. He's gay.
It's all because my current OASE filter, which is a FiltoSmart 200 filter, yes, it has handles, but it's just too small. We should just move on. To access your pre-filters, you must move this lever first, not this one, this one.
Sorry, I just think I'm too stupid to understand this.
And if I saw it correctly on YouTube, you just pull this one out. So this is the fabled OASE pre-filter for the BIOMASTER. I'm guessing you should just turn this one and then lift. There you go. What we have here are the blue foam filter pads. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is 30 ppi, but I'm not 100% sure. This is what the internal tube looks like. Now, in order to lift the filter head and open the entire canister filter itself, you will have to go through these levers first. Lever 1, that will cut off the water inflow and outflow. Lever 2, now you can release all 4 clamps. So with the handle up, you should be able to open the clamps and can lift it up. This is what the underside of the filter head looks like. Okay, so inside the BIOMASTER 350, there should be 5 trays, if I'm not mistaken. This is what the inside looks like. Okay, so BIOMASTER 350 has 5 trays in total. BIOMASTER 250, if I'm not mistaken, it's a total of 4 trays. And for the BIOMASTER 600, that should be 6 trays. This is OASE's own biological filtration media, and it has a very cool name. Wait for it. It is called Hell X. Damn, that's a cool name. Here is a close-up. Now, the big question is, why did I upgrade my FiltoSmart Thermo 200 into a BIOMASTER 350? Well, that's because my FiltoSmart started leaking. And no, I don't think Flex tape will be able to fix that type of leak. Next up, I'll be comparing my FiltoSmart to the new BIOMASTER 350. Alrighty then, this will be the switch. This is my FiltoSmart Thermo 200. This is the new BIOMASTER 350. With them side by side, you can... You can easily tell that the BIOMASTER 350 can hold much more biological media, which is very important in terms of your tank stability.
You know, you really jumped out the window when you compared yourself to me. Don't compare when you don't compete. You can't even get highlights in your hair like me, bitch.
This is what I was talking about. This is the FiltoSmart 200's handle.
Have small pee-pee.
They're very small compared to the big guy right here.
Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy. Damn.
So, in terms of biological filter media, I have the classic ceramic rings. Okay, this one, I got this one from Amazon. It doesn't really have a brand name or something. So, I call it the ceramic mini suckmables.
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing?
They're about the size of your typical aquarium soil. Right there. And of course, by default, a bunch of Sechem matrix. For the chemical filtration, I use activated carbon right here. And of course, your trusty Purigen. There you go. So on the top tray, I'll be using a fine filter floss. All I need to do now is assemble my hoses, my clear hoses here, attach the inline CO2 diffuser, which is right here, and then connect it to my glass lily pipes. Alright, moment of truth. Water level is already decreased. All pipes connected. Fingers crossed. You can see right here that the water is slowly filling up. Okay, so that's how you prime your BIOMASTER 350. Okay, another tip. Every time you do or make any changes with your filtration, always make it a habit to give your aquarium or aquascape a dose of any biological boosting agents like CCAM stability.
Contractor, no. I will not bow to any sponsor.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe and leave this video with a thumbs up. Because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. For today's video, I'll be talking about my top 5 easy green plants. So, like what I've said, I'll be talking about my top 5 easy green plants that I can suggest for intermediate and well-experienced aquascapers, and of course, amateurs. In no particular order, let's start with number 1. I'm gonna start this list with everybody's favorite carpeting plant, my chrysanthemum.
The fucking lobster is cooking and shit. Now, I'm gonna fucking knock you.
My chrysanthemum tweedii, or also known as Monte Carlo. This plant is versatile and easy. You can plant it on soil or sand, or you can tie it or glue it on hardscapes like woods and rocks. I did a minor rescape on the Dream Thief. Yes, it has its own name now. So if you missed that video, click right here. So, going back, I've replaced my Lush Eleucharis acicularis mini with the Monte Carlo. And right over there is my desktop shallow aquarium, which is a low-tech aquarium. And on that setup, I've used the Monte Carlo by gluing it on wood and tying it on rocks. This, I've got to say, is my favorite way of using the Monte Carlo. This one right here is grown under low light conditions and boosted by sunlight. As you can see, it's already covered by immersed and floating plants, and it still grows. When tied or glued onto hardscapes, Monte Carlo grows in a drooping fashion, just like a willow tree. And speaking of willow trees, Monte Carlo can also be used on bonsai setups. This is where you use the Monte Carlo as a tree's canopy itself. Monte Carlo care and propagation, I hear you ask? So, on that shallow aquarium, it is a low-tech setup, it has no CO2, and I dose it with fertilizers once every 2 weeks. Monte Carlo propagation is as easy as trimming it and then replanting those trimmings. Let me show you a great example. This one right here is replanted from a trimming. And what I did there is I just squeeze it right in between the rocks. It doesn't even need soil or sand. So, that's my chrysanthemum Monte Carlo to you. That's just my number 1. It shows you just how important horticultural care is. Number 2 on the list is Riccia fluitans. Or Riccia. Comment down below how to pronounce the first part. It's bright green and has a funky texture. The Michael Jordan of aquascaping, Mr. Takashi Amano, popularized this plant, which is under the liverwort family. Liverwort. That sounded like a name from Harry Potter.
Wish I'd
This plant can float, you can tie it on hardscapes, and it can also be used as a carpet. Why am I even holding this? Oh yeah, this specific plant is being grown as a floating plant, and believe it or not, when I got it, it was only 6 centimeters in diameter. Look how much it has grown. And like what I've said earlier, it has a very funky texture. Yes, you've heard me correctly. That plant can be used as a carpeting plant. There are crafty people out there who've used that plant as a carpeting plant. But think about it, a floating plant used as a carpeting plant. That's awesome, ain't it? Propagation is so easy that people are having problems with it. When you trim it, and if the trimmings do get carried away by the current or be misplaced somewhere, give it a month or 2, then surprise! You will have a misplaced Riccia fluitans somewhere out there in your tank. What I usually do is remove the entire rock itself wherein the Riccia is attached, and then trim it outside of the aquarium. Or you can trim it while siphoning water over it. Now, the Riccia fluitans is categorized as a medium category plant by Tropica, meaning providing it with CO2 will definitely give it a boost, but I don't think it is a particular requirement for the Riccia fluitans. Lighting is moderate to high light, growth rate is a medium rate, which gives you enough time for maintenance. And I'm saving this for last when it comes to recap floatants. And the kicker thing about this plant are those oxygen bubbles that form while it's photosynthesizing. Because of its structure, it seemed to be holding onto the oxygen that it produces, which gives a very wonderful magical effect. Isn't it amazing? Let's talk about number 4. Yes, I'm gonna skip number 3 and talk about it later because I want to. I make this video, not you. I'm gonna have a hard time editing this. Anubias and all its varieties. It's a slow and steady grower. It doesn't need CO2. It doesn't want highlights. And actually, it prefers being placed in a shaded area. Fertilization isn't really a requirement for this plant, as well as you don't have to trim it like every week. What more could you ask for? This plant, Anubias, is the very definition of easy.
That was easy.
Leaf sizes and shape differ from specific species to species. In my tank right here, which is the Dream Thief, I have an Anubias nana, Anubias nana petite, and Anubias minima. Most of the Anubias species have a dark colored leaves. There are rare species that have a golden leaf color and even white. Now, I don't want to talk about those specific species at the moment because I haven't personally owned them yet. So yeah, all of the plants in my list, I've owned it at one point in time or currently own one. Number 3, it's a floating plant. And I was blown away by them when I had it a month ago. Salvinia. No. Don't skip. I'm not talking about Salvinia auriculata. I personally do find it kind of ugly. The Salvinia species that I'm talking about is Salvinia cuculata. Cuculata? Caculata? Caculata?
Men without cocks.
Maybe it really is all
Cocks in the end.
Salvinia cuculata is very cute. And it has a very velvety mint green color. If you're gonna look at the list of all the aquatic plants in our hobby, not all has that type of color, mint green. Why I liked it over any other floating plant, it has a more compact growth. In my experience, smaller leaves. That's why it is a must if you are on the market for floating plants. I know you are tired of the usuals like Salvinia auriculata, frog bits, water lettuces, and duckweed. Ugh.
Boring!
Since it's a floating plant, lighting isn't really a problem, but do keep in mind when you first add it into your aquarium or aquascape, they'll initially turn brown because they had to adjust onto your water parameters. Once they've adjusted to your water parameters, they'll grow beautifully. And here is a side-by-side picture of the Salvinia auriculata and the Salvinia cuculata. Last but not least, number 5. I've talked about this plant in detail from my older videos right here. And if you've watched that video before, I know you know how versatile this plant is. And no wonder our aquascaping master Takashi Amano have used this plant extensively. Wanna know what I'm talking about? Of course, it's HYDROCOTYLE tripartita. Just like Mr. Takashi Amano himself, who's a photographer, a designer, track cyclist, and of course, a well-known aquarist, HYDROCOTYLE tripartita has a wide range of uses. It can be used as a carpet, as a floating plant, can be placed in the mid-ground or foreground, it can be tied or glued onto hardscapes, and it can be grown immersed or submerged. Whew, that's a pretty long list. Do you get it? It grows rapidly and can grow under multiple lighting conditions. This plant can grow without fertilizers, without CO2, without soil, and without artificial lighting. I'm proper serious right now. If your mind isn't blown yet, what the I'm gonna show it to you. I don't care how shaky it'll be. I just want to show you my secret fishbowl.
Hey, come on in, girl. I've got so much to show you.
So, the 3rd floor?
Where are you going? Come back.
So this setup doesn't have any CO2, no soil, no filters, no artificial lighting, and the only lighting it has is sunlight. Now that I've given you my top 5 easy green plants for beginners, intermediate users, and experts, comment down below what is your top 5 green plants. Go on, type it. I'm waiting for you. I'm still waiting. Type it. Yeah. So, oh shit. So I hope you like this video. If you do, leave it with a thumbs up, and if you don't, please don't click that dislike button. I'm the Aquarist for fun. I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So please subscribe and Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. For today's video, I'll be making this fishbowl into a low-tech aquascape fishbowl. Okay, so let's start. The things that I'll be using is, of course, this beautiful fishbowl that comes on a wood. I'll be using crushed lava rocks as its substrate. For the plant list, I'll be using Hemianthus cuba, some Alternatera sessilis, some Rotala indica or Rotala rotundifolia, I'm not really sure. I've got here a small piece of Cryptocoryne parva, Mini Peliamus or Ricardia camedrifolia, and of course HYDROCOTYLE tripartita. Let's first start with the base substrate level. Since this will be a low-tech setup, I won't be using or I won't be able to use any sort of filtration. That's why I'm using lava rocks as its base substrate level, because it's highly porous and beneficial bacteria may grow within those pores. Have you ever tried pouring water over crushed lava rocks? What you'll see is a very fine mist of micro bubbles coming out of the lava rock. That's a sign that your lava rock has a lot of porous areas wherein beneficial bacteria can grow. Next is I'll be pouring used aqua soil into this fishbowl. If you've seen my other previous videos, I've used this fishbowl recently as my no-tech fishbowl, wherein I've just placed in some HYDROCOTYLE tripartita, HYDROCOTYLE verticillata, and the trident fern inside for a month or so, and they actually thrive somewhat inside this no-tech fishbowl. No artificial lighting, no soil, no filter, no CO2. The soil that I'm using is used Tropica Aquarium soil powder. Okay, next is I'll be planting the Hemianthus calictroides or Hemianthus cuba in front, in the foreground. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I have increased the volume on the back so that it is slanted. Okay, just so you know, almost all of my plants and almost all of my aquascapes came from K2 Aqua, which is a shop from eBay. Okay, so now for the mid-ground, I'll be using Cryptocoryne parva. As far as I know, it's the smallest form of Cryptocorynes, and compared to the other Cryptocorynes, You don't have to cut the roots or the leaves when planting or before planting. Next is HYDROCOTYLE TRIPARTITA. I'll be planting them in the mid-ground and in the background as well. Okay, next up, I'll be using this piece of wood and securing mini Pelia moss onto it using super glue. I'll be using Rotala HYDRA as a background plant. I just trimmed this one from the Dream Thief. Here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the background. Okay, next is the Alternantera sessilis. Next is I'll be planting Rotala rotundifolia into the background as well. I'll just fill this up with water and hopefully everything sticks and not float. Fingers crossed. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. For today's video, I'll be talking about my preferred CO2 setup for planted tanks. Okay, so this video is for everybody who's been searching for the best price to performance ratio. For this setup, you'll be saving a whole lot more money because if you are just like me, we all know how expensive this hobby can get.
Hello, I like money.
And for the meantime, I'm gonna stop recommending the DIY CO2 setup. Wanna know why? Well, because of this. This happened. Let me show you my budget pressurized CO2 setup. First thing you'll need is a CO2 fire extinguisher, a CO2 regulator with a solenoid valve, CO2 resistant tubings, and a piece of check valve or a one-way valve.
What is that noise?
And of course, let's not forget about your CO2 delivery method. There are multiple types of CO2 delivery method. You can either get a cheap nano glass diffuser, atomizer, also known as a bazooka. It's an inline diffuser. Okay, so a pressurized CO2 setup is composed of three main things. That's your pressurized CO2, your CO2 regulator with a solenoid valve, and your primary method of distribution. Remove this safety cap. Now you can attach your CO2 regulator. What I usually do is insert it at an angle like this one, hand tighten this screw. This cheap CO2 regulator that I got already came in with this tool. You can use this tool to tighten it onto the fire extinguisher. Since it is at a 90 degree, once you screw it in and tighten it, it should be in the right place. Not too tight, not too loose. This cheap CO2 regulator that I got also came in with this bubble counter. Always fill your bubble counter more than 3/4 way through. So just have to put this one here. Now that you've got that connected, just unscrew this part right here. Insert it along the tubes of your CO2 resistant tubing, like that. Now your CO2 resistant tubing goes right into the bubble counter's nipple. Nipple.
Oh, yes! Pull my nipple! Yeah, baby, yeah! Oh, I love that shit. Yeah.
This will come down and screw it tight. Should be safe and secure. As you can see, it is already connected to a one-way valve or a check valve. This check valve will prevent water from coming back into your system. Now, at the end of this tubing is your choice of delivery. There are many ways to deliver CO2 to your planted aquarium. You can use a glass diffuser. You can also use an atomizer. Now, there are many products out there that has great reviews like Aquarium's Neo diffuser or the Twin Stars diffusers. You can get one of those. And just like what I've said earlier, if you have access to an external canister filter, you can use an inline diffuser. This is an inline diffuser. It is actually the inline diffuser that I'm using in this aquascape. Now, just remove this gray part, attach it onto your line. Now, the tube goes onto where? The nipple.
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing?
And then just screw the gray part here. As you can see, it is very secure. And then you'll just connect this to your external canister filter and into the outflow pipe. Now, I forgot to mention this to you earlier. If you're gonna use a pressurized CO2 setup, it will be highly suggested to get a plug-in timer like this one, or you can get an even fancier one.
Fancy!
By buying smart plugs.
Good brains.
Preferably, you should start your CO2 setup 1 to 2 hours before your lights goes on. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it on. Just press this part. You'll start to see this pressure gauges working. There you go. Now you'll need this cable tie to secure this handle. We'll just have to slowly adjust it. Now it's releasing CO2. If you have your CO2 diffusers right here, it is highly suggested to place it directly opposite where your outflow is coming from. Water should be flowing here and then distributing the small bubbles that will come out of here. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it on now. Now, if you have water flow coming from the other end, it should be able to blow the bubbles away and then distribute it all over your planted aquarium.
Hey y'all, come look at this.
Okay, next up is your atomizer or the bazooka. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the CO2 for this atomizer. As you can see, bubbles are starting to form up underneath, and as it builds up pressure, it will slowly give off bubbles, just like that one. Highly suggested to run it at full blast for 10 to 15 seconds. Can slowly adjust your CO2 to the desired rate. Okay, so right now I am at 1 to 2 bubbles per second. It is giving off finer micro bubbles compared to the glass diffuser from earlier. Now, the finer the bubbles, the better, because that means you'll be able to distribute it all over your aquarium more efficiently. The camera isn't picking it up, but I can see micro bubbles all over this quarantine tank right now. So next up, I'm gonna show you how bubbles come out of my inline diffuser. Okay, so that's too much. The camera isn't picking up the micro bubbles that is coming out of my outflow, which is a good sign. Whew. Okay, so for all of my UK viewers, are you about to run out of CO2 for your planted aquariums, or planning to transition from a DIY CO2 into a much better pressurized CO2 setup? Boy, do I have some great news for you. Right down there in the description box below is a Facebook group called Freedom Fire. All of their deliveries are next day deliveries, so just in case you messed up or forgot to check the CO2 levels on your tank, Freedom Fire's got your back. They've got awesome prices. The more you buy from them, the more savings you'll get. They are very helpful, they're very responsive, the prices are great, and they offer next day delivery. What more could you ask for? Okay, so I guess that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe and click that like button right there, because in this channel I talk about aquascaping, fishcaping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye! Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. For today's video, we'll be taking a deep dive into aquarium sterilizers. Okay, so this is a very hot topic that needs to be touched.
Yeah, boy.
Are these products a buy or a bust? Does it really work, or is it just snake oil? Okay, so just so I don't ramble on, I'll be giving 4 details or 4 most commonly asked questions about this product. I have the Chihiros Doctor right here, but I guess we can talk about the Twin Star Nano as well. I'm pretty sure that some of you or most of you have already Googled.
Did I stutter? Yes, but actually no.
Googled this product and how it works. So basically, it uses electrolysis. So this may get a little sciencey.
Yes, science!
So basically, water electrolysis is the use of electricity to break down the water molecule, which is H2O, meaning there's 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. Chihiros or Twin Star didn't really explain what will happen after the electrolysis, because water electrolysis can produce a bunch of stuff, not just separating the hydrogen and oxygen molecule. It's not that simple. It depends on a lot of factors. In some cases, you can really produce hydrogen peroxide by using water electrolysis. Remember, H2O, that's water. H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide. So basically, they still have the same molecule, just in different configuration. And as you may well know, hydrogen peroxide, we can use that chemical to stop or kill algae. But just to make things clear, both Chihiros and Twin Star didn't make any claims with regards to hydrogen peroxide production. In some sources, you can read or hear that these products can produce hydroxyl radicals. Hydroxyl radicals is composed of a single molecule of oxygen and a single molecule of hydrogen, which is both present in water. That idea isn't too far-fetched, but as far as I know, as I personally know, hydroxyl radicals can reproduce under certain or specific conditions. What are those specific requirements? Well, typically they will use a titanium coating on both anode and cathode. The anode and cathode on this product are the 2 discs that are slightly separated by a small gap, which is a good thing. So that's one check. Since we all studied chemistry at one point, there has to be some specific factors when it comes to temperature. Also, the gap between the two discs is...
I have gaps in my teeth.
It's very important in production of hydroxyl radicals. I'm guessing they've already took that into consideration when making these products. Another factor in production of hydroxyl radicals is the voltage and the electrical conductivity, which is also why they are asking for you to enter or know at least the TDS on your aquarium. So pretty much everything is covered, and let's just assume that these products really do produce hydroxyl radicals. So, question number 2, the most important question of all. Does it kill algae?
That's suspicious.
Take note, I use the word kill. This is where a lot of contention exists. Woohoo, contention. Fancy word.
Fancy!
I have linked a bunch of scientific studies on the description box below, just to show you I'm not a bullshit all-talker YouTuber who knows nothing and then talks about something. So basically, one of the studies there showed that the only electrical process that is 100% effective on killing algae is shockwave. As far as I know, these sterilizers doesn't use shockwave.
No, the fuck it's not. No, it's not.
So that tests include the production of hydroxyl radicals and the use of strong electric fields. Hydroxyl radicals and electrocution basically are the processes that are claimed by this product, and that study specifically said that hydroxyl radicals and a strong electricity field doesn't work on killing algae. Their patents and explanations about killing algae is basically non-existent.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about the patents later on. Another factor why I don't think these products will kill algae is that, well, pretty much one of the well-versed guy in the scientific studies of our hobby, Mr. Tom Barr himself, he said that these products, they basically do nothing for algae. So that includes green spots, green dust algae, black beard algae, hair algae, red moss. I haven't really heard of it, but those are his words, not mine. These products doesn't work on algae regardless of their claims. So, does it kill algae? No. Is it beneficial to have one on a planted tank for both your plants and livestock? I definitely say yes. I'd say yes, but it's not required and will never be a replacement for proper horticultural care and proper aquarium husbandry. Oh, and by the way, aquarium husbandry means proper care for your aquarium. Dun, 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 dun. So the big question is why? Why did I say that yes, this product will be helpful for plants and livestock? Well, on this specific topic, their patents became slightly more detailed. According to them, these products can produce positive ions. Positive ions like calcium ion, potassium ion, magnesium, iron, zinc, and or sodium. And those positive ions will thereby contribute to the plant growth. Now, in terms of livestock, their patents explained or showed their own studies on killing specific disease-causing bacteria, so which is a good thing. Now, that study lasted for 30 days. My final take on this is, with healthy plants and healthy livestock, you are in a way indirectly affecting or preventing algae growth, but not killing it. Okay, so let's have a short discussion regarding their patents. The patents that I saw is specifically from Twinstar, which I guess is pretty much the same as Chihiros. I've linked their patents in the description box below. What that patent showed is basically a side-by-side picture of an aquarium with and without aquarium sterilizers, which they funnily named as the killing apparatus. they didn't provide any specifics on the technical details about those tanks. So also, I've noticed that in their patents, in terms of algae, the words they've used is just along the lines of preventing and controlling. Never did they directly say that this product will kill algae, nor does this product claim to kill algae spores.
Can I live? Can I fucking live? Why y'all wanna fuck with me? Why? Why y'all so mad at me? What have I done to anybody?
Okay, let's have a summary. Do you need one of these? The Chihiros Doctor or the Twin Star Nano? No. Does it kill algae? No. Does it help your plants? Yes. Does it kill disease-causing bacteria? Yes. Will it prevent algae? It will. But, there's a big but. But these products won't do shit if you don't know how to properly take care of your aquarium. If you want to learn how to take care of your aquarium, what I suggest you to do is subscribe, leave this video with a thumbs up, because in this channel, I talk about aquascape, fish keeping, and some more general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So, bye!
I can make one of those.
Okay, so firstly, let's go through the stuff that I'll be using for this video. I have a Redmore wood right here, and this will serve as the main tree of the bonsai. Try and pick the best shape and size that will be suitable for your use. And for finer details, I have smaller pieces of Redmore wood. Try and get as many as you can afford, because the more pieces you have, the more choices you have, the better the outcome will be. For this video, I'll go with wooden chips like this one. This is where I will tie or glue the plant onto. For this setup, I'll be using dragonstone. You'll also need pruning shears, hacksaw, and a low viscosity super glue.
The most exciting part of this project is planning. Here you can see me trying out multiple pieces of wood so that I can assign which piece of wood is better fit as a root or as a branch. Now it's time to try and cut your main piece of wood into its desired shape. In my case, since the tip of the wood is pointing backwards, I'll cut it in the middle and then reattach it so that the tip will be pointing downwards. For the root structure, try and make it as detailed as possible. Here I'm using low viscosity super glue, cigarette filters, or rock wool. You can use your shears or fine-toothed saw in order to cut the small pieces of wood into your desired shape. You can use sawdust or crushed lava rocks in order to hide all of the attachment points that you'll be making throughout this project. As you go farther from the main tree's body, the branches in turn should be smaller as it reaches the end. For the main branches, try and pick the best piece of small wood that you can find that will fit your desired tree shape. Again, I'm using low viscosity glue, cigarette filters, or rock wool. In my case, I've used a foam board in order to have a flat and even surface. Now that I have a flat and even surface to work onto, I've glued the dragonstones, which will serve as the base of the bonsai tree. Just sprinkle your sawdust or crushed lava rocks onto the attachment points and then give it a few drops of your low viscosity super glue. Do you remember the wooden flat disc from the start of the video? They will serve as your bonsai tree's planting area. There you go. It's your very own aquarium bonsai tree.
Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. Best budget light for your planted aquarium, I hear you ask? I'm just gonna get this out of the way first. I am not a Chihiros fanboy. Okay, the best budget light for your planted tanks.
Sorry guys, I have chocolate on my face and I didn't even realize it.
Okay, the best budget light for your planted tanks, in my opinion, is the Chihiros A Series 2. But why? Well, for me, it's the best budget light for your planted tank for multiple reasons. Reason number one, it has an app integration. Just like any other updated Chihiros products, this light has an app integration. I have 3 planted tanks at the moment, and all of them are powered by Chihiros lights. Light management has never been this easy. With the My Chihiros app, you can set multiple parameters. You can set how long the light goes on, how strong the light is, and how long would it take to reach the max setting.
Step brother, I'm stuck. What the fuck are you doing?
I'm trying to set up the timer. Chihiros A Series 2 has multiple sizes available. It has 30 centimeters, 35 centimeters, 36 centimeters, 40 centimeters, 45 centimeters, 50, 60, 80, 90, and 120 centimeters. So that's 10 different sizes. Chihiros A Series 2 is very beginner friendly. No need to make a big fuss about your settings, specifically your reds, your blues, your greens, color temperature. If you can go through the app, all you need to set is the light intensity. That's it. It is that easy. Another reason why I prefer these lights over all other budget lights for your planted aquarium is the fact that you can tilt this light in multiple angles.
Wait a minute!
Okay, so what? So what if you can tilt your lights? What are you gonna do with it? If you want to join an aquascaping contest like IAPLC, AGA, CBAP, AQSC, CIPS, WAC, KAC, blah 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 blah. Lighting is key. For that specific contest, we all wanted that picture-perfect scenario. With the Chihiros A Series 2, you can tilt the angle in order to change the mood. For example, you can tilt the lights facing forward so that the foreground will have a much more stronger shadow. You can also tilt it backwards if you want to highlight the background. The possibilities are endless. What I usually do is tilt the backlight facing backwards so that it would face the wall and it will illuminate the wall. I'll have the same effect like that of ADA's light screen. Another pro for this light is that you can adjust it from low to medium light. Medium light, that's enough to support a carpet for your aquascape. As mentioned in Green Aqua's lighting video, Chihiros A Series 2 can punch way above its weight class. Yeah, but what if I like highlights? If you want highlights, you can buy multiples of this light in order to have better coverage. Power levels are compounding. No, not that type of pounding. Compounding, meaning 2 lights of medium power levels can add up in order to have a higher par reading. For this bonsai aquascape, I've bought 2 Chihiros A Series 2 45 centimeters, and the lowest price that I could find is around 40 pounds. The Chihiros WRGB II for the same size is around 98 pounds at the cheapest. So, 2 Chihiros A Series 2s is still a lot cheaper compared to a single WRGB II. Okay, granted you lose the RGB controls, but what you'll get is a wider light coverage for your planted tank and a ton of flexibility. So, in a way, you've kinda cheated the system. And since we're on the topic of price, this is a relatively cheap light, which is something the big brands like ADA, Twinstar, and ONF can barely compete in. It's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to your Chihiros A Series 2. What are the cons? If you have a very weird tank size, say 55 centimeters, you won't be able to use one of these lights. They only have 50 to 60 centimeter lights. They don't have extendable legs. These are precise fitting lights. If you have a weird tank size, what are you doing? You're a psychopath. And since this lights has more power, baby, than your ordinary run-of-the-mill budget light, you might experience algae issues if you can't balance it with proper CO2 levels and proper nutrition. Luckily, I'm so good at aquascaping. Another con is that not all of your local fish store or aquarium shops carry this product. In the UK, for example, the only shop that I got them from is a shop from AliExpress. So that's gonna be long waiting times for the delivery. Another reason why this light might not be for you is the fact that this light has no available third-party accessories. They don't have a dedicated hanging kit. They don't have a dedicated shades for this one. They don't have the attachable mirrors. They don't have the specialized acrylic legs because they already has one. Okay, so after I've downplayed all of the cons and hyped up all of the pros, I think you get the idea. This light is definitely something to consider if you're in the market for a light for your planted aquarium, maybe it a low-tech tank or a high-energy setup. If you want to know more about aquascaping, why not subscribe? It's free. Because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some more general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for Fun. Today's topic is about my favorite mid-ground plant, the STAUROGYNE repens. Okay, so STAUROGYNE repens is a bright green, freshwater aquatic plant. And although the S repens, or the STAUROGYNE repens, is a relatively new species in the aquascaping hobby, it has easily become one of the most recognizable plant species in our hobby. Okay, firstly, let's start with how it looks. So like I said earlier, it's bright green with leaves that are a bit broad, short, almost like an oval. Under bright light, the leaves will grow really packed in along the stems and a whole lot more bushy. If you place it in a dark area, like this one, stems will start to become really leggy. Growth rate is okay. Some would consider it as slow, but I'd say it's an okay-ish growth rate.
What?
It can grow as tall as 3 to 4 inches. Planting and propagation. So, planting and propagation is very easy. You can buy them as an in vitro, for example, from Tropica, or from pots or trimmings from other hobbyists. The only difference is if you buy from big companies like Tropica or Denolay, it's a guarantee that it'll be snail and pest free. When it comes to planting, you plant it like any other aquatic plants. Preferably plant it in an aqua soil using your fingers or an aquascaping tweezer. And you can use this plant as an epiphyte as well. Well, I haven't tried it personally yet, but if Tropica claims it to be possible to use it as an epiphyte plant, then it must be true. Propagation is very easy as well. You can trim it and just replant the trimmings. This plant can also grow side shoots. yeah. It's short, it's compact, and it grows side shoots. Yes, you can use this plant as a carpeting plant as well. Okay, so how do you care for your S repens? Again, it's really easy and basic. The S repens is very well known for its hardiness. The ideal water temperature is between 20 to 30 Celsius or 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you do keep it in the higher range of the ideal water temperature, it will actually promote faster growth. pH levels is again simple. It's between 6 and 8. Water hardness is between 10 to 25 degrees of general hardness. And when it comes to carbonate hardness, it's between 0 to 10 degrees of carbonate hardness. S repens needs to be trimmed from time to time, say between around 2 to 3 months, in order to get great results. The more you stick to the trimming schedule, the more bushy and more compact the growth will be, which is the desired effect. Okay, CO2 injection, is it really necessary to keep this plant alive? No, it's not an absolute necessity. But just like any other aquatic plant in our hobby, CO2 injection will really help this plant's growth from its color, form factor, and general overall healthiness. What are its light requirements? Light requirements, I personally recommend you to keep at least a medium intensity light in order to get the ideal results. If you use a very low intensity light or place it in a dark spot of your aquascape, it will still survive, but the stems will start to become really leggy and it will have farther distance in between leaf nodules, which is not the desired effect for this specific species. Okay, so let me give you 5 reasons. That's 10. Okay, so let me give you 5 reasons why you should try and use this plant for your next scape. Reason number 1 is that it is a really beginner-friendly species. You can grow it in low to medium light, no CO2, it doesn't require any special parameters, and it is not a very demanding plant since it only requires to be trimmed every few months or so. Reason number 2 is because of its color. It's bright green. Just like my other favorite plant, the HYDROCOTYLE tripartita, the STAUROGYNE repens can stand out in a plane of dark greens, browns, and reds. Reason number 3, it's a highly versatile plant. It is commonly used as a mid-ground plant because it does an awesome job when it comes to transitioning from foreground to the background or any other hardscapes. One of the main reasons why I consider this plant as a versatile plant is that you can use it as a carpeting plant. Also, as Tropica claims it to be, it can also be used as an epiphyte plant. In our hobby, a plant can be considered as an epiphyte plant if and when it can survive being tied onto hardscapes like wood and rock. And to be honest with you, bondage is starting to be one of my favorite genre in porn.
Yeah, boy.
Reason number 4 is that because it has broad and short compact leaves, it can provide cover for small fishes and other invertebrates like cherry shrimps. Reason number 5 is that it can be easily propagated. And because it is easy to propagate, it can be relatively cheap to buy trimmings from other hobbyists. Okay, so before I go on to my last topic, I would just like to plug in the t-shirt that I've designed. I've got this Aquascaper barcode. I've personally designed it, and if you do want to buy one, the link is in the description box below. Buying the t-shirts and hoodies that I've designed will really help support my channel. Again, link is in the description box below. So, going back, my final topic about the S repens. What are the most common problems associated with your STAUROGYNE repens? Melting. Melting is a very common phenomenon that happens, for example, when a plant transitions from immersed growth into the submersed growth or the underwater growth. So when you buy or receive an S repens that is grown immersed, you can expect it to melt within the first week or so. But as long as the main stem is green, you can expect it to recover. So don't worry too much about melting. Another problem with our S repens is leggy growth. Like I've mentioned earlier, if you plant it in a dark spot or if you have a very low intensity light, it'll start to have a very leggy growth and you will not have that low, compact, bushy appearance that everyone expects from an S repens. So with medium to high intensity lights, the higher the intensity of your light, you can expect a more bushier growth from your S repens. Another common problem with your S repens is that it can have discolored leaves. Just like any other aquatic plants that we keep in our hobby, if you have any plant with a discolored leaf, then most probably it is because of nutrient deficiency. With specific signs like certain color discoloration pattern, certain leaf growth deformation, you'll be able to identify what type of nutrient deficiency the plant has. So the main key here is that you should be able to provide nutrients to your aquatic plants through two channels. One is from the substrate and one is from the water column. You can click on this video if you want to know more on how to make your own aquarium fertilizer. Well, in the initial phase, during its first 2 months or so, I've noticed some green spot algae forming on the leaves. So what I personally did is, since I'm mixing my own fertilizers, I've made sure to add more phosphates into the mix. And after a few weeks, the green spot algae that's forming on its leaves started to go away. I didn't use any Excel or hydrogen peroxide on the leaves. I just added phosphates on my fertilizers and it all went away. For leaves that are really badly affected by algae, all I did is trimmed it off and disposed of it. The big question is, what is your favorite mid-ground plant? Comment it down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then I suggest you to click onto that red button down there. Because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and some general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. Are you suffering from those pesky green hair algae? Do you really want a real quick fix? Or maybe you're too new to the hobby to try and search for the real cause of algae. Or maybe you're just too lazy to properly take care of your aquascape. Then I just might have the best problem solver for you. So this product will make your life easier. It's the Easy Life Algae. Okay, this is not a sponsored video. Easy Life. Okay, so in this bonsai scape that I've made, I've been pretty lax when it comes to the weekly maintenance. And who doesn't want their guppies and shrimps to be bursting full of food? So that's why even with the weekly water changes, CO2 and fertilization, if you overfeed or overstock your aquascape, it could still disturb the balance and still cause algae. Okay, now granted that the algae issues I had was not as bad as yours or what you think it might be. I think it was probably because I still continued with my basic weekly maintenance. And where did I go wrong? I overfed my fish and shrimps and I didn't properly siphon off the detritus that was building up under the moss and the carpet. Okay, so I could have continued with what I'm currently doing to correct the algae and went on with my life, but it could take months. And since I'm a YouTuber, you know damn straight that I'm gonna make a content out of it. So that's why I tried this product. It's an Easy Life product called Algae. It's primarily used for green algae. Says so right here, against green algae. So that's why I used it for my green hair algae. Okay, so the picture I'm showing you, the green hair algae may not be visible, but it's right there. Inside the moss, swirling and twirling inside, I can tell that there's algae building up under the moss because I know what weeping moss is supposed to look like. Okay, so I used it for a month. So that's a total of 4 doses. The recommended dose by Easy Life is around 10 ml for every 100 liters of the total volume of your aquarium. This BONSAIscape is an 80-liter aquarium, so I used 8 mLs for every dose. And I dosed it every water change, so that's weekly for 4 weeks. Now, I can hear you asking, when can I expect to see results? Well, for me, I started seeing visible results in the 2nd week mark. There is an actual and visible decrease in the amount of hair algae that was inside my aquascape. Hi guys, real quick. So if you'd like to support my channel, you can buy one of the hoodies that I've designed. It will be available on the description box below. Thank you. And I can also hear you asking, why don't I just manually pull it off with a fork or something? The thing is, because of the type of layout that I've made and the area where the algae is at, if you try and manually remove the hair algae, you'll end up pulling every whipping moss on that bonsai tree. I've tried it, and if I continue doing it for a month, you won't see a canopy on that tree. So the active ingredient in this algae exit is, from what I can see, or from what my research have told me, it's salicylic acid. I'm familiar with salicylic acid being used on human soaps and treatments for acne, but I haven't tried doing a deeper research when it comes to salicylic acid's interaction with plants and algae. Okay, another question that you might ask is, will it be safe to dose when there's a bunch of livestock in the aquarium? So when I dosed my aquarium, which is this bonsai aquascape, I have a lot of cherry shrimps, different varieties, a bunch of guppies, a bunch of guppy fries, other cincluses, and ram's horn snails. Oh, ram's horn snails! Easy Life claims this to be harmless to fish, shrimps, mollusks, and plants. And with my personal experience, yes, I can tell that it is safe for your livestock and plants. None of my livestock were harmed during the dosing period for the entire month, so which is a good thing. Now, the key thing is, try and solve the main issues first. Try and look for the main reason why the algae started blooming in the first place, which in my case was the obvious overfeeding of this aquarium because I loved my guppies and shrimps too much. Try and solve those main issues first, then you can use products like this. Because I was able to identify the main problem and did interventions to correct that problem, I was able to control the bloom of the green hair algae. Products like this will just help cement your win, basically, against algae. If you try and use products like this without properly resolving the main issue, yes, your algae problems might go in a few weeks or months, but I am pretty sure that you'll end up messing up your aquarium in the near future. Because like what Mr. Tombar said, majority, if not all of the algae issues in our aquarium is because of the Aquarist. Okay, so final take. Easy Life Algae Exit. Does it work? Yes, it worked for me, might work for you. Will this be an excuse to be a lazy aquarist? No. That's why you need to subscribe to my channel, because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and a bunch of general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. That's it for me. Bye. Hi, it's me, the Aquarist for fun. I have the Chihiros WRGB II right here, and it was great. I have two Chihiros A series 2s right here, and they're both great. I have the Chihiros C2 RGB right here, and we're gonna talk about it. Okay, so here's what you'll get out of the box. Assembly is fairly easy, and just like any other modern Chihiros lights, you can connect them to your phone through the My Chihiros app. Because this is the RGB version, you can control the reds, the greens, the blues. If you bought the regular Chihiros C2, you'll only get to control the intensity. Okay, so now let's talk about the minute details of the lights. This specific version has 40 LEDs, 1580 lumens, and consumes 20 watts. The entire length of the light bar itself is 24 centimeters, which makes it the perfect lighting system for most nano tanks. Okay, so now let's move on to my personal review. Like most of my light reviews, let's start with the things that I like about the light. Number 1. The Chihiros C2 RGB and the regular version is the perfect size for most nano tanks. Nano and specifically the shallow tanks. Its form factor, for me, is its highest or the biggest selling point. Its light bar is around 24 centimeters, making it perfect for 30 centimeter cube aquariums. Even 30 centimeter to 40 centimeter shallow aquariums like mine. One advantage it has over the competition, which is clearly the ONF Nano. Is that you can reposition the light bar itself into multiple positions, which makes it very handy when you have, say for example, a hardscape that's protruding out of the water. Reason number 2, another pro that this light has over the other competition is that it has the app connectivity. Now, I know it's not really necessary, but if you are a real aquascaping hobbyist like, say, me, we all know that one fish tank will never be enough. Take me for example. I have 3 tanks right here and 1 over there. Now I can show you 3 of my 4 tanks, but that 1 tank in specific is... I cannot show it to you yet. Just remember, subscribe so you don't miss out. Going back, so I have 4 planted tanks and I can set them all up using my phone. Maintenance will be super easy if you can just turn them off on your phone, turn them on your phone, adjust the intensity, adjust the brightness, adjust the coloration, whatever. App connectivity makes everything so much easier. Reason number 3 are options. Options like accessories to better fit your setup. If you have a planted fishbowl, what type of light will you use? You can't use the regular lights because of their stands or their clamps. Well, the Chihiros C2 RGB and the regular version has an available metal plate stand. So from fishbowls to wabikusas, this light is for you. Shades. This Chihiros C2 RGB has an additional shades option as well, which is bought separately. And it's not just any ordinary shade. They are mirrored shades which reflects light even more towards the setup, towards your planted aquarium. Reason number 4 is its price. Now I've mentioned its closest competitor, the ONF Nano. They're basically the same form factor. Chihiros C2 RGB and the regular version is cheaper compared to the ONF Nano. Now, the big question is it better than the ONF Nano? In some aspects, yes. In some aspects, no. But one thing is for sure, Chihiros C2 RGB is much more affordable, which makes it a better option for others. Now, you can probably sense it. Why am I not so hyped up about this Chihiros lights? I have reviewed the Chihiros WRGB II right here, and I was super happy. I reviewed the Chihiros A series 2s right here, and I was very happy as well. Why am I not super satisfied with the C2 RGB? Well, just like its pros, I have multiple reasons why I don't like it. Number 1, I actually find this light kinda weak. The Chihiros WRGB II has more power, baby, than most of its competitors. A series 2 has more power, baby, than most of its competitors. With the C2 RGB, even the regular version, it's just, pretty ordinary. I just don't find this light good enough for my standards. Thing is, I found something better than the Chihiros C2 RGB, and it's sitting right there. Reason number 2 is its colors. Now with the Chihiros C2 RGB, you can control the reds, the greens, and the blues. But if you max them all out, the light will give off a very unnatural greenish tint to it. Now, there might be some of you who is weird enough to like it. And to be honest, good for you, but it's not for me. And just like what I've said, that light is much better. Okay, reason number 3 is more of a nitpick. I hate the way it attaches to the clamp. It's clunky. It doesn't really inspire confidence that it'll be able to hold. So far, I've had this light for like what, 2-3 months now, and it's stable as long as you don't fiddle with it. But I don't know if you can notice from here, it's slightly leaning towards the heavy side. I don't know, why didn't Chihiros just made a regular clamp like that one? So, the final take. Will I recommend it? If you have a low-tech nano tank setup, a fishbowl, or a wabikusa, then yes, I'll be more than happy to recommend this light for you. But for anything else, no. I'm sure someone else is very happy with this product with a different setup other than the ones I've said, but it's just not for me, and if I'm not happy with it, I wouldn't be confident enough to recommend it to you guys. But what I can recommend is getting some of these hoodies that I've designed. Link is in the description box below. So if you don't want to miss out on the next aquarium light review, then subscribe to this channel. Because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and a bunch of tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So that's it for me. Bye.